Thanks to filming news, we know of some major events that will happen in Season 8, but do we know in which order they will happen? There's been a lot of confusion around this timeline for Season 8, so let's clear that up a bit. You're now watching Because Geek. As we already know, Season 8 will have 6 episodes, with 1, 2, and 4 directed by David Nutter, 3 and 5 directed by Miguel Sapochnik, and 6 directed by Benioff and Weiss. This already reveals and confirms some things that make sense. After watching all of the episodes directed by David Nutter, a pattern became clear. All of his episodes are packed with not only a lot of drama and intense emotional back and forth dialogue scenes, but he's also very good at directing quick, short action scenes. And based on what we know from filming news, episodes 1 and 2 will have plenty of that. We know that Jon and Dany will arrive at Winterfell in the first episode. And I can see drama starting immediately with the Northern Lords not accepting Dany, which will probably create drama among the Stark siblings as well. We'll have the drama tied to Jon finding out that he's a Targaryen, the drama about the lack of food and the amount of people that Dany's bringing that need to be fed as well, the drama about Dany burning Sam's father and brother. And then I'm guessing it'll be around episode 2 when we see Jaime arriving at Winterfell. And I mean, I don't need to explain why this will also create a lot of drama, right? It's going to be a mess, and this is only in the north. There will definitely be drama in the south with Cersei as well in the first few episodes. Maybe the miscarriage. Combined with Jaime leaving her, we might finally see her going 100% irrational, affecting her relationship with the Iron Bank, with the Golden Company. Who knows, but drama there will be. Now, regarding the short action scenes that we see a lot in David Nutter's episodes, we'll most likely get plenty of that while we see the Army of the Dead advancing south. We've gotten a report from Los Siete Reinos' trusted sources claiming the following. The Night King will show his army from the start of the season, but by episode 3 his numbers will have grown to a staggering amount, and among these newly acquired whites there will be more wildlings and members of the Night's Watch. This makes sense since there were wildlings and obviously more Night's Watch members at the wall when the dead were passing through it, but it helps us know what type of short action scenes we'll get to see, and it also lines up with reports that I mentioned in a past video that claimed Brothers of the Night's Watch were going through stunt training, which means that they will be fighting. So we will definitely see them getting attacked by whites, more than likely in the first episode. But the other event that we will likely see is Tormund and Beric arriving at Castle Black. They can't really get down anymore through Eastwatch as there are no stairs left, so there's only one way they can go, and that is west along the top of the wall until they reach Castle Black, where they will meet up with Ed. In another video I said that Gendry was with them at the wall too, but thanks to an interview that I had missed with Joe Dempsey, where he talked about a scene that got deleted, we have confirmation that he was on the ship that left the wall with Jon and Dany. And we also know that he's filmed lots of scenes for Season 8, including scenes with Alfie Allen who plays Theon. So yeah, Gendry's doing alright. I even think he will survive the whole thing. But back to the action scenes thing, I also believe that we will see the dead attacking the Umber Castle, and we will see the Karstarks fleeing to Winterfell. There is one storyline that will probably have both drama and short action scenes in the first few episodes as well, and that is Theon saving Yara. I know that this happens in the first few episodes because by episode 3, Theon is already back in Winterfell, and he wouldn't have gone back without having saved his sister first. I will go more in depth here in another video, but while we're at it, let me say something real quick. I want to keep this video short and concise to only explain the Season 8 timeline and not much else. So I won't be spending a lot of time explaining the evidence and my thought process behind these ideas, but if you do want to know why I think something will be the way it is, I will be making a series of separate shorter videos where I go in depth into each of the things that I mentioned here. Think of this video as the trunk of the tree and those separate videos as the branches of the tree. I will talk about the evidence for Theon saving Yara, Theon being in Winterfell, and a bunch of other small little things like that in those branch videos. Alright, let's keep going. Following filming news has also convinced me of something really sad that I think will happen in the first episodes as well, and that is the demise of a big part of the Dothraki army. I will go more in depth here in another branch video, but I'm bringing this up because this will also create a lot of stress for Dany, resulting in more drama scenes. Also, I think it will be Jaime who tells her what happened. David Nutter is going to have a really good time directing all of this. But yeah, let's see what our timeline is looking like so far. In episode 1, we have Jon and Dany arriving at Winterfell, Tormund and Beric arriving at Castle Black, Night's Watch brothers fighting whites, potential Cersei miscarriage, which we talked about in another video, Dothraki death, and let's throw in a likely scene with Euron and the Golden Company here, Theon saving Yara, and I'm also just going to put this here too, Sam and Bran telling Jon that he's a Targaryen, and Dany's nephew. Now in episode 2, I have Jaime and Theon arriving at Winterfell in separate scenes, and also just to put it here, Winterfell reinforcing their defenses, since we've seen that in some leaked pictures. Keep in mind that most of these are just my speculations. Some things from episode 1 could happen in episode 2 and vice versa. And I'm also omitting some of the obvious minor events just to keep this free of clutter. Moving on to Miguel Sapochnik's episodes now, we know that he has been excellent at directing battle sequences with a crazy amount of logistics, so we can safely assume that this is what is being given to him again, and that both of his episodes will have a major battle in them. This lines up with images and videos that have been captured from the sets. Again, we will go more in depth with these pictures in branch videos, but we know for a fact that there will be one major battle sequence at Winterfell, and one major battle sequence in King's Landing. Since the Night King is coming from the north, it only makes sense that the first battle will happen at Winterfell, and the second one at King's Landing. So if episodes 3 and 5 will have major battles because of Sapochnik, and the direction that the action is moving is from north to south, we can place the Winterfell battle in episode 3, and the King's Landing battle in episode 5. Pretty easy stuff so far. That's a normal plot structure right there. The action will increase slowly in the first 2 episodes with the first major peak in episode 3, and then the action will slow down a bit but continue to build up in episode 4 for the final climax in episode 5, with episode 6 likely being left for the aftermath and the epilogue. But let me say something here. These major events will be so big that they probably won't be contained into one specific episode. The action will probably spill over across episodes 3, 4, and 5. Now, it's been speculated that the Golden Company will attack Winterfell before the Army of the Dead, but I'm still not super convinced that this is true, so I won't be adding it to this timeline, but I will make another video focused on that. At least it's clear that in episode 3, Winterfell will get attacked by the Army of the Dead. Let's discuss episode 4 now. A while back, we got some leaked pictures showing us Jon and Cersei meeting in King's Landing. We know that this is King's Landing because not only are they in Dubrovnik, which has been used to depict King's Landing before, but they're filming in the exact same spot that they filmed King's Landing scenes last season. These 2 windows here are the same window, and in this picture they were filming the scenes in which Cersei and Jaime watched the Iron Fleet approaching King's Landing. Right here you can see the window. Now there's a few important details to mention here. Benioff and Weiss are on set, which could point to this being a scene for the finale if they were the ones doing the directing, but they're not. David Nutter is on set too, so why are David and Dan here? Well, it is very common for them to visit the sets. Everything has to be approved by them. But if you remember the list of writers I gave you in my first sleuthing video, you'll realize that there is a hint in there as well. One of the episodes Nutter is directing, episode 4, was written by Benioff and Weiss. So, could this be a scene for episode 4? Let me show you another picture from the same set. Here, you can see that Dan seems to be very involved, making sure that Lena is positioned correctly, as if he knows exactly what this scene should look like, maybe because he's one of the writers? I think so. Also, remember that the other 2 episodes directed by Nutter are 1 and 2, and if Jon is arriving at Winterfell in episode 1, it doesn't make much sense for him to go back to King's Landing again in the same episode or the next. You could argue that it's sorta possible for it to happen at the end of episode 2, but I think you will agree, keeping in mind the rest of the evidence, that Jon and Cersei meeting in episode 4 is what makes the most sense. Before I explain to you the most likely meaning of this scene, I need to answer one of the biggest questions the fandom has had this entire time. And that question is the Night King going to be defeated in the north or is he going to be defeated in the south? I've heard great arguments for both of these, but guys, he's going to be defeated in the south. How am I so sure? Simply by combining a few spoilers from different sources. Starting with a report from Los Siete Reinos stating that the battle against the White Army will reach at least episode 4, and in it, the Whites will be going against, amongst others, Jaime and Brienne, reunited once again fighting side by side to save humanity, which is pretty exciting. But then, we now have to add to this another report from a reliable source on Reddit who knows that this Jaime and Brienne scene will happen in King's Landing. And that way, we now have our situation, the characters involved, and the location. confirming once and for all that the Night King and his army of the dead will make it all the way to King's Landing. And if this is the case, the next question to ask is, how the hell did Jon make it to King's Landing before the Night King? Well, the most likely explanation is that the Night King is being held back by someone in the north, giving Jon the time that he needed to get to King's Landing. This also lines up with the plot structure that we were talking about earlier, with the two major battles here and the Night King being held down in between. All of this info helps us conclude that the most likely reason Jon is talking to Cersei is because he needs her help, and not because he's trying to take over King's Landing after defeating the Night King. But as we all know, these types of conversations never go as planned, and this one won't be an exception. Another reliable source from the Free Folk subreddit confirms this. They had to delete their account, but before that they posted this picture where you can see the gate of King's Landing with some soldiers on top of the towers. The leaker claimed that even though the camera wasn't able to capture it, the guys on top of those towers were archers, and they were wearing red skirts, which points to them being Lannisters. The leaker also said that the archers were shooting down at an army who was trying to breach the gate, and that based on the sounds that they were making, it was an army of living humans, not whites. This lines up with another video we had gotten earlier where we can see a group of Unsullied and a group of Dothraki getting ready to film scenes at the gate of King's Landing, which means that it's gotta be Daenerys who's leading this attack. And this is why I said that the negotiations between Cersei and Jon won't go as planned. But more on that in another branch video. Let's go back to the timeline now and see how it all fits in. We know that Jon and Cersei meet in episode 4, and since I doubt that Jon would be able to speak to Cersei after or during the attack at the gate, I will place this Dany attack somewhere soon after Jon speaks to Cersei. Moving on to episode 5, as we said earlier, the main event will be the King's Landing battle. And a big spoiler that we also know is that King's Landing will be destroyed and burned specifically by dragonfire. This was shared by Watchers on the Wall a long time ago, and the evidence to back it up has been piling up miles high ever since. But a question still remains. Which dragon will it be? Dany on Drogon? Or the Night King on Viserion? Or both? A dragon will definitely attack the gate thanks to these pictures that we got from a Red Priestess on Twitter, where we can see that these towers have fire damage. But if this was caused by Dany, she would have just used her dragons from the beginning, instead of sending her armies to get shot at with arrows while trying to breach it. This is why the most likely culprit here is the Night King on Viserion, after he finishes dealing with whatever or whoever was holding him up in the north. Now let me remind you of something very important about Viserion that I haven't heard anyone mention so far. The Night King can only use Viserion to destroy non-human obstacles. He cannot use them to kill humans because he can't bring back anyone who's been burned to death. So it wouldn't make any sense for the Night King to attack humans with Viserion. But it does make sense that he would burn down the gate of King's Landing so that his army of whites can get through, like he did at the wall. There's also been speculation about the new larger scorpions that were being tested on set being placed on top of these towers, which gives any dragon rider more reason to get rid of them. This could also be the reason why Dany is attacking the gate with her armies instead of with Drogon or Rhaegal, who could easily get fatally shot from one of those. Now I want to mention something else real quick. Remember that Cersei has no idea that the Night King has hold of a dragon. So Dany will know that these scorpions were definitely meant to be used against her and not the Night King. So just another thing for Dany to hate Cersei even more. Even though I'm speculating that it wouldn't be advantageous for the Night King to use Viserion to burn all of King's Landing, we do have proof that there will be plenty of fire all over the city, and it makes more sense to me for it to be the fire that's being used against the Night King, his White Walkers, and his Whites. Or it could also be caused by our long-awaited epic dragon against dragon fight, which I believe is extremely likely to happen right above King's Landing. And while they're shooting fire at each other, it's possible that they burn some things that they're not supposed to. To add to this, we have seen pictures of the King's Landing set not only on fire, but also physically destroyed. And I can't think of anything else causing this other than the dragon fight. We got one very interesting spoiler detail in a video made by Freaky Doctor, who is a Spanish Game of Thrones YouTuber. He had Javi Marcos, the owner of the Los Siete Reinos website, as a guest in that video, and Javi, who's a pretty reliable source, said that we should be wondering who is sitting on the throne by the time that King's Landing is on fire. heavily implying that Cersei won't be ruling anymore by that point. This leaves room for some crazy speculation, so I will leave that for another video. But even though it was only implied, I will go ahead and add this to the timeline. Cersei without a crown. Guys, this is a good time to let you know that if you don't want to miss out on any of these branch videos, make sure that you're not only subscribed, but that you're also clicking on that little bell icon next to the subscribe button, which is probably the only way that YouTube will notify you of my new uploads. Now, the last major sequence that we know about is one at the Dragon Pit. We first found out about this when it was revealed that the Spain location that was used in Season 7 to depict the Dragon Pit would be used again for Season 8. And the next logical step after that was figuring out which actors would show up there. And a whole bunch of them did. But it's been confirmed that some of the actors were only there to film a Game of Thrones documentary and some extra features for Season 8. While some other actors were probably invited by David and Dan just to throw us off. So we don't have 100% confirmation on who's all going to be part of the Dragon Pit scene. But we do know, thanks once again to the Reddit user BoatSexBaby, that whatever was filmed there is going to be part of the King's Landing battle, and not a coronation ceremony like many of us wanted it to be. There should be another branch video for this later. But yeah, let's put it on the timeline right here. And as my own speculation, I think the Night King's defeat will happen either at the end of episode 5 or at the beginning of episode 6, but I will just put it here to be safe. And as I mentioned earlier, there should be some epilogue stuff near the end of episode 6. If you want more details on this, please click here to check out my epilogue clues video, and if you'd like to watch some Game of Thrones animated videos, you can click here. Also, check out these awesome avatars that we're making for my patrons now. If you want to get your own, you can become a patron by clicking here. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like if you liked it, and I will see you in the next one!